4 years ago, the residents of the City of Georgetown elected Brendon Barber Sr. as mayor. Now he's asking those residents to give him 4 more years to tackle issues such as growth, infrastructure, and housing. I talked one-on-one with the mayor for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Mayor Brendon Barber, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
All right, Quintin. Glad to be back.
Yes, sir.
I hope you're healthy with this Delta variant that's mutating from the COVID-19 virus. And please just be reminded that we're all better off if we can get vaccinated. Too many of us are leaving this life, and one too many lives is just too many to lose. I've been to too many funerals, so please, make sure that you get vaccinated.
And how many residents in the City of Georgetown have actually been vaccinated?
Well, we don't have the exact numbers, but we're still at a rate where that we can improve.
And in the middle of all of this, you have a re-election campaign going on right now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Who is Brendon Barber now versus 4 years ago?
I tell you what, Brendon Barber now, when you take on a leadership role, you understand that the passion that you have for the lives that you impact daily is really not a burden. It's more of a mission to humble yourself even further to help those, particularly, those that are in different classes, the wealthy, and then you have, those that really need the resources to help them live a productive life and a meaningful life for their families. So you take on their service and you humble yourself to become a servant, not to be served. So that's something that's always been taught in my family, whether it's, parents, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, and other members, to always, to whom much is given, there's a lot to be given. So I think my wife will tell you now that I'm more humble because I see things from a different perspective in serving the community. Just like God wants me to do to just as the son did to wash feet and to make sure we serve others. And that's who I am now. Just, it's been a great change. It's been a joyful change. And to be a leader is to make sure you empower others to just do the job that they're supposed to do. Particularly those that work for us in the city, who we greatly appreciate, and you lean on their expertise to guide you. And as long as you have the right people in place to guide you through, whether it's a municipality or a state or even a business, just make sure you surround yourself with people who can really stay progressive and to make sure we're doing the fair thing for all citizens.
I know that you said it's council's responsibility, Georgetown City Council's responsibility, to have discussions in-house first before going to the media with opinions and discussions. What's new? What's now with Georgetown City Council?
Well, I've been a member of the Municipal Association of South Carolina for over 24 years. And one thing you learn as far as working with the Municipal Association, and I also serve on that executive board now. And one thing we've always done is that if we have issues or anything, we come together and we take care of those issues within the confines of the Municipal Association before we bring things out to the public. And that's the way you should do things. That's the way families do things. You don't let the media, you don't go to the media first before you talk to the folks within your organization. And when you have qualified folks that work for you, you check with them first. And that's part of the learning curve as a public official, is that you use those that are in certain lanes that have expertise that could advise you before you take anything to the public.
In what ways are you actually engaging the constituents of the city of Georgetown?
Well, it's to being there to make sure that our infrastructure is being upgraded. Housing opportunities are coming forth with single-family development, single-family housing, which is important. That's being developed and under construction throughout our city. Multi-family units, something we were in dire need of. Under construction right now as we speak, we have a 128 unit multifamily dwelling going up. The other thing, we just completed a multifamily unit for those that are 55 and older. So when folks start talking about how do you keep an interest going in a city, you have to build density. In order to build density, you have to have a housing inventory. So those are the things that are coming forth. Then we have to talk about, affordable housing and workforce housing. So those things are already on the ground, going and helping the city to become recognized as a growing city. People would say, "Well, your population is declining." Well, when we did our 2020 census, we only had a 40% plus participation, as opposed to 10 years prior, we had over a 60% participation. So therefore, there are a lot of unaccounted for citizens, both in the city and the county, that did not complete the 2020 census. Now you say, well, why? Well, the pandemic, because the census workers couldn't go door to door. So we tried to do it remotely, virtually, any way you can think of from a technology standpoint, but the participation of our citizens to complete those forms were not there. So there's a undercount of a population. But here are some other indicators to tell you that the city's growing. When this administration, my administration, first took office, on our Central Core Business District alone, my wife and I counted 17 empty storefronts. Walk down Front Street now, the Central Core Business District, and just count how many empty storefronts you have now. We had public property, which the city owned for over 18, 19 years, and that's been redeveloped into a industrial park called Eagle Commerce, where there's an investment in small industry. That the building we did own is now a $10 million investment, and that particular developer is also getting ready to build 2 new spec buildings to take some of the first and second tier suppliers that are in your area. We're encouraging them to come to Georgetown because the cost of business is more, it makes more economic sense for them to come here because of the lower cost of square footage and what have you. So those are some of the things that are going on. And also, I mentioned infrastructure because I mentioned infrastructure to upgrade your water utilities, your electric utilities, and all the things that you would need for growth. You want to make sure that you don't put anything new on top of something old, because that's taxing your utility system. And yeah, when a pandemic hit, something we've never experienced during my lifetime, sure, there's going to be a shortfall in revenue because the revenue you had coming in prior to the pandemic, that's impacted. But we were able to survive and not lay off any city employees. So we were still able to provide services. We were still able to create a spirit to welcome those that do not live in the city or the county to come and visit Georgetown. Again, this year, we're being recognized as one of the best small coastal towns in the United States by USA Today. Now, that's 4 years running.
Right.
So that tells you something. When folks come and say, we're not doing anything in Georgetown, why are we being recognized? Right. There's a lot going on. Yeah. We created a TIF district, and that's a tax incremental financing district.
And Mayor, what is the current population in the city of Georgetown?
According to the census, it's right at about it's over 8,000. So right around in between 82 to 8,800. But like I said, that's an undercount based on our ability not to get to that 60 percentile as far as folks completing their census form for 2020 as opposed to 2010.
How does a city this small have an annual budget of over 37 million?
Well, that tells you that from a revenue standpoint, our population is more than what appears on the books with the census. And the reason we do have a budget of that magnitude, we have what we call the enterprise fund, which is our electric utilities, our water utilities, public, the whole deal. So what that does, when you look at the budget on a whole, you have the enterprise fund, and then you have the general budget, which is business license, property taxes, and what have you. You combine that, and that's when you get the total number for the entire budget for the city. Enterprise funds basically they're self-sufficient, self-supporting, because they operate and they provide a service that citizens pay for. Your electric bill, your storm water, your wastewater, water, things like that. So that's why that's separate. And of course, the general fund, which takes care of fire protection.
Right.
Takes care of fire protection, law enforcement, administrative, building planning. I can go on and on. But that just to give folks a general idea. I always tell folks it's like on one end, it's like having two separate accounts at the bank. But yet, when you put those two accounts together, that gives you, the total that you have in the bank.
And what are your other current revenue trends?
Well, what's been surprising even during the pandemic is the number of building permits that we've had over the past 24 months. In 1 month we had over 84 new building permits. That's a great indicator. Then you look at the number of folks now that are buying existing homes and also renovating those homes. That's just one indicator that tells you that people are moving into the city of Georgetown.
Then what's more important for Georgetown right now? Building new homes and commercial space, or rehabbing, expanding, and better utilizing the existing homes and storefronts?
Well, it's both. You have to have a balance. All right. Folks always say, well, why do you approve and vote on new development when you also have to have affordable housing? Well, you have to have a balance, because when you have new buildings coming in and folks investing, that gives you revenue. Then at the same time, the revenue that you have coming in, then you can reach out and start helping other folks to come in to provide affordable homes. So there's always a balance. You want to encourage growth. One thing businesses look at, or investors look at, coming from the outside, do you have enough housing inventory so that when they invest and come and move into your city, do I have a place for our employees to live? Whether it's apartments, which we have under construction, or single family homes, which are under construction and being completed. So people always want to know, do they have a place to live? And 4 years ago, we didn't have places for people to live. So that's a true indicator that we are growing. Folks talk about people leaving the city of Georgetown, and what happened when we got the Santee Cooper settlement. We had residents who, with their utility bills, of course, we had to take that revenue from that settlement, and we had to disperse that revenue back to the citizens. Well, after a certain amount, you have to look at citizens who have moved multiple times around the city. So when you look at the statistics, it might show that people are moving out of the city, but they actually are moving from place to place within the city.
And how many of
You
those
understand
people?
what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. How many
Yeah,
of
I
those
mean,
people?
and you have people that do that. They might within a year's time, they might have 3 or 4 different addresses in the city. So you have to take all that into consideration. But being around and being here in Georgetown was just a great place. And with the waterfront that we have, that we need to look at making sure that that's a working waterfront. We're just in a unique place where so many positive things have happened in the city during this pandemic. And when I became mayor, I had to manage potential flooding, potential hurricanes. I was also critically ill and had to go to MUSC. Almost lost my life. This is during my term. And then on top of that, managing a pandemic. So I think what we've done in the past 4 years is just, it speaks for itself. But let's not take God out of the equation, because He's been with me and been with us the whole way. We've been truly blessed.
And why are Georgetown City and Georgetown County officials failing to court new industry to the city, or at least to the county?
Can you say that again, Quintin?
Yes, sir. Why are Georgetown City and Georgetown County officials failing to court new industry to the city?
Well, I just recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the county to come together and work together on economic development. So that memorandum of understanding is in place at this point, and what we have to do is make sure it's just not a document sitting on a shelf. So to move that forward, the city administrator, along with the county administrator, have to go ahead and take action now to make things happen for both councils.
What is the city's relationship with Georgetown County?
I think that's a relationship that's growing. There are certain things that the municipalities do well, and certain things that the county does well. But you can't at this point in time, our entities and the folks that we work for, which are our citizens, we serve in a different capacity. So when folks talking about let's start merging the county and the city, then you start looking at loss of jobs, particularly for employees. So right now, the way we're working, we have a strategic plan that we're working on that's in place that's never been done before. We talk about SWOT analysis, which you can build your strategic plan on. And the SWOT analysis identifies your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So that's what we're working on. And as soon as we finish that document, that probably would be what we call at this particular point with strategic plans. And due to the nature of what's going around the globe, it would probably just be a 2-year strategic plan, because things are going to change rapidly. So therefore, you have to prepare for the next plan. So you have to have goals and measurable objectives to run a municipality. The thing about municipalities, they're not a business. People want to think that you can run a municipality such as you would run a private business, but there are so many policies, rules, and regulations that you are governed by. This is by the state, the feds, and also the ordinance within the city. So process time takes a little longer with local government, state government, and federal government, as opposed to having a private business.
Now, what is your administration's relationship with the state of South Carolina?
Well, I tell you what, the governor's on my speed dial. The Secretary of State of Transportation is on my speed dial. Different federal officials, state officials, I have them all. And the great thing about it, if I call and they don't answer when I call, within about 30 minutes or an hour, they call me back. So we've built, and the first thing I did was that my mom always told me to respect the position. So, forming those relationships, that's the first thing I did when I became mayor, is to form a relationship with all the respected officials from the federal, state level, and also, within our county.
And what is the employment base right now in the city of Georgetown?
Well, I tell you, since the pandemic, just like across this globe and the country, um, you walk around and you see signs and you see hours and days that are being reduced because fo- folks are not working right now. Okay, and we have opportunities with nonprofits that are providing employment skills training. Our local technical school provides that, but no one's showing up for the trainings. So we're providing resources to help people go to work, and we're trying to help all the businesses that have a shortage of employees. It's not that people are being laid off. Work is out there, but we can't find employees, just like across the country. Yeah.
I know that. How could you demonstrate to new businesses that Georgetown is open and available for business?
Well, I think like I said repeatedly before, look at the housing developments, both single and multifamily. Look at the new businesses that are coming into Georgetown, because they are, whether you call them mom and pop businesses or small business, they're coming. So, and it's our people. Our people are our greatest resource because they're inviting. You come to Georgetown and everyone makes you feel welcome.
Sure.
So that's the greatest asset of Georgetown, our people. And we wouldn't be Georgetown without our citizens.
Does the city of Georgetown have a union issue?
No, we don't have a union issue because, of course, the municipality itself, we're non-union.
And how could you assure growth, Mayor, in a city with smart growth?
Pardon me?
How can you assure growth in the city of Georgetown with smart growth?
Well, I think when you talk about smart growth, you want to talk about developing the TIF district where it creates more revenue coming into the city to benefit all communities within the city. Whether you're talking about improving infrastructure, providing opportunities for our citizens to get some type of relief with housing or what have you. And then, of course, reinvesting again, like I would always say, in your infrastructure. But then at the same time, balance industry, tourism, and also other necessary needs and resources throughout the city. So, smart growth it's always a balancing act. One thing I learned from the former mayor of Charleston, Joe Riley, when I met with him when I first became mayor, because he's one of my heroes and he's the mayor of America. And he told me, he said, "Brendon, remember, it's all about the feel of your city. That's how you grow it, and that's how you have balanced growth. It's the feel. It's the feel of people walking around your city. It's the feel of the facilities and the buildings that you have throughout the city. So that when people walk away, they're attached emotionally to your city." And one of the biggest comments I always get walking through the city is that folks talk about, how friendly it feels. So when you walk through a city that feels friendly, then that's a marketing tool that folks want to come back to. The Low Country, from the Florida state border to the North Carolina state border or state line, it's projected in the next 5 years or 10 years that we're going to have over 20 million people moving to the coast. You see it already in Charleston. I mean, you guys are overcrowded with investors, residents, and that's not only in Charleston County, that's in Dorchester County and Berkeley. And one council member in Dorchester told me, he said they're growing so fast they don't have the infrastructure can't keep up. So those are some of the things we have to balance coming into folks coming into the city, balancing infrastructure, upgrading infrastructure, keeping that feel to say, hey, Georgetown is the place I want to come to and live and raise a family.
And how much tax revenue has the city lost in 2 years?
Well, when we say tax revenue, it depends on what you're talking about. Are you talking about hospitality and accommodation taxes? If you're talking about property taxes, I already told you that we're developing single family homes, and that's a great tax base. When you talk about business license and business taxes, it all depends on at what period in time that business was impacted by the pandemic. So during the first half of the pandemic, we lost quite a bit of business revenue because businesses, throughout the state were shut down, then allowed to open. Then there were some other mandates by the state that stopped them from opening on certain days and time. But even through that, we began to see a resurgency of businesses popping up and people starting to come back. So the recovery is there. Now what we're doing is, making sure that we could sustain the recovery, even though there's a new variant out there with this pandemic that's still impacting us more than the first COVID-19 virus. So it's kind of, I tell you, it's one of these times. It's the best of times. It's the worst of times during the pandemic because it's still impacting us from a health standpoint. So this thing is crazy, man. It's just that we rely so much on our medical experts, our first responders, and managing this, and also just with the cooperation of our business owners and residents to say, hey, look, we have to have a thriving community, but at the same time, we have to have a community where we survive this global pandemic.
And I know, obviously, you've said that in your 20 years on Georgetown City Council and obviously 4 years as mayor, it's not enough time to implement or change and show progress. How much time, Mayor, are residents willing to give you to implement change and show progress?
Well, I just want to let the residents know that I don't have a magic wand. I can't straighten out 4 decades of things that have happened in the past, but we're on the right progressive track in a positive way. And in the next 4 years, you're gonna see things explode in the city of Georgetown. With God's will and His blessing, it's gonna be phenomenal. So we're on the right track. We have the right relationships through the federal government, the state government, the people in various parts of this city from various backgrounds. We're just on the right track, man. And I tell you what, if you can't feel that positive energy, then, we want you to be in a good place where you feel it. And regardless of what naysayers might say, you're always going to have them, but you're not going to stop this. You're not going to stop this progressive train.
Where exactly is the growth in the city of Georgetown?
Well, Quintin is in various places. It's in the commercial core district. It's out in the western part of, when I say the western part of the city, over in the Walmart complex.
Okay.
With housing. If folks talk about the West End, that we haven't done anything over there, since I've been mayor, we've made we've made right around $6 million of infrastructure. That's all underground, because in order for us to develop the West End, we have to have a upgraded utility system there. And then we've also rezoned 200 lots on the West End to make it rebuildable. Then we have a grant over $350,000 to take care of dilapidated housing. We have another grant that's coming in that's going to also address other water utility issues, and that's over $400,000. So if you look across the city, the historical district, we've improved the water utility system there. Various parts, we're getting ready to come up with our final plan for the American Rescue Plan, which is the ARP, to make sure that everyone in every community within the city gets a fair piece of that funding so that we can improve the city overall. So that's where we headed.
Well, let me jump right into it. How much of the recovery funds have been used for stormwater projects and expenses?
Well, it haven't been used yet because our plan needs to be finalized and submitted to the Department of Administration, which we still have to follow the U.S. Department of Treasury guidelines. So it's a process, because if you don't utilize that money right, then you have to repay that money from the general budget. So this is not a quick fix.
And which part of the recovery funding will go towards investing in wastewater infrastructure projects?
Well, that's still a work in progress, because that spreadsheet's being developed by our city administrator, our water utility department heads, engineer, and those. For me to give you a percentage right now, I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me.
Okay, and how many dilapidated houses are there around the city of Georgetown?
Well, right now, just to give you an exact number, I have to go back to building and planning, and I can call you back with that.
Okay. Speaking of services, Mayor, can you consolidate city services to save money?
When you say consolidate city services, you have to understand that we have two funding sources. The enterprise fund is already consolidated. All water utilities are under one department. You have the electric utilities, and public works on their enterprise fund. That's under a department. So we've already consolidated all of our what we would call our services that are being paid for by citizens, through rates and what have you. So that's consolidated. Then on the general side, of course, you have your regular stuff like business licenses, property taxes, and what have you. So those services are already consolidated into departments.
Can you at least explore cost-saving ideas and incorporate them into your strategic plan?
Sure, that's why we're developing our strategic plan, and that includes citizens, our vendors, our employees, and all other parties concerned. Because when you put a strategic plan together, it's not just council, it's not just the administrator, it's all parties and citizens within the city. So once that's completed, all that'll be incorporated.
What policies would you enact to slow gentrification in Georgetown?
I think what you have to do is provide home ownership to those areas that are blighted, to make sure our people are not moved out of those areas, and making sure that they could provide affordable homes, or even folks that have what we call heirs property.
Right.
Take that property, and there's a clear definition. No, there's a line between what is a modular home and a manufactured home. All right, and of course we know that within 50 miles of the shoreline, you can't bring trailers, so that because of hurricanes.
Right.
But if you did a modular home on a piece of property, then the folks would have to have clear title. If you did a manufacturing home on that property, then folks can bring that manufacturing home right on, have it underpinned, landscaped, and everything to meet the requirements for particular wind speeds. So those are things we're looking at to make it easier for folks who are hardworking, been working all their lives, and they just want a safe and decent place to live, to put on their property.
How many infrastructure projects, Mayor, have been completed in your term, 4 years?
Oh man, I'd have to go back to the spreadsheet. I mean, just thinking offhand, we probably had over probably about 20 infrastructure projects.
Wow.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. And let me ask you this. What will a Barber administration look like in the next 4 years if you're reelected?
Well, when you talk about what would it look like, it's going to look like the city of Georgetown. We're going to stay friendly. We're going to listen. We're going to do what's in the best interest from a fair standpoint for all citizens, and that's the only thing you can do. And as you move along, encourage those that are investing in the city and moving into the city to be a part of a city that's welcoming, and also to let you know that the expertise that we would have on staff would be able to provide the transition we need to keep a balanced, progressive city, but yet be fair to all those that live in the underserved areas. And when I say underserved, we're talking about classes. You know, you have the wealthy and you have those that are not wealthy, that work every day. So what we have to do is make sure there's not an imbalance. That's what this administration is about, and will be about, making sure that the underserved is being served in a fair manner.
And speaking of your administration and listening, what are you listening to when you come to the next police chief for the city of Georgetown?
Well, we're going to put out a nationwide application, and what we're looking for is someone who's going to be involved in our community, who knows that profession from a professional level, and is highly qualified and have the personality to deal with all citizens.
And what is the status right now on the new Georgetown City Hall?
Well, you know, at the beginning, when we had the conceptual drawings, what the city hall was going to look like, when we had the presentation by the architect, and when we had the presentation by the administrator, you know, all council members supported that process. Then when it came time, you know, to reward the bid, certain council members were against it because the person they wanted to get the bid, their friend, you know, didn't meet the criteria. Because, you know, I'll say this again, with this administration, all contractors, general and minority contractors, deserve a piece of the revenue that the city produces from the citizens. And when you talk about minority contractors, people always say, well, minority, they think black, but women are minority contractors. Blacks are minority contractors. Non-whites are minority contractors. So, hey, we want to involve everyone. But then, you know, when the pandemic hit, I called council together and I said, look, let's cancel this City Hall project because we don't want to be in a position where we compromise our employees. We want to make sure that they continue their employment, that they can provide for their families and resources. The city is about investing in people, not facilities. And as long as we invest in our people, we'll be okay. Because one thing the pandemic has taught us is that we can work and we can, you know, work remotely in a lot of positions and work that way. So right now, you know, we're going to look within the next couple of months, we're going to look at whether it's 12 months, 18 months, we're going to look at different sites. We're going to see what's, you know, doable, whether we can find something that's already established, or if we have to build new or have some type of partnership. I mean, the floor is open on the City Hall, but I know it's imperative that we do that for our employees.
And how many minority contracts have been awarded under your administration?
Well, you know, I'd have to go back right now, Quintin, and look at the general contractors and see, okay?
Sure. Well, Georgetown Mayor Brendon Barber Sr., thank you for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups. And sorry
all right, Quintin. Hey, look here. I'm coming to Harbor Town, man. We need to do coffee or something.
Sure, I'll be right here.
So we can do this face to face.
There you go.
All right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.